All right, what's good? What's good? Welcome back to another episode of the King Ray Ray Show. When you let go and let God, which is a term that we hear all of the time, sometimes you got to let go and let God. When things are out of your control, you got to let go and let God. And that's absolutely true. But when you let go and let God, you still have to do your part. You don't let go and let God and then just go on and still keep being worried and concerned about the same things. That's not letting go. See, here's the thing. The things you cannot change are not your responsibility. So you give those things over to God. How do you give them to God? They already belong to Him. You give them over to Him in your mind, in your spirit, by letting them go. The most egregious waste of time that you can ever embark upon or ever employ in your life is to be concerned about something that you cannot change. Because that means there's nothing you can do to affect the situation. So even stressing about it, worrying about it, it's not going to do anything. It's not going to benefit you at all. It's not going to benefit anyone around you at all, because what you do does not affect that particular thing. And furthermore, I think it's very disrespectful for you to do God's job for Him, even in your mind. If you're concerned about things that are God's business and have nothing to do with you, then that's fairly disrespectful, and you are wasting the time and energy that God is giving you to focus on the things that you need to focus on in your own life. See, here's what people have to understand. You are responsible for capitalizing on the opportunities that you are afforded in life. And how do you do that? By optimizing the gifts you were born with. People ask me all the time, what's the thing I'm supposed to be doing? What's my purpose? What's my mission in life? What is your passion? You know your passion. If you have a question, well, I don't know what my passion is, you're lying to yourself. Sit down and think. Look at your life. Look back over your life. Look back over your childhood. Look at the things you've done. Even if you didn't get a chance to do it all the time when you were young, think of that thing you did, man, that you just want to, you think about it all the time. You wish you could do it again. You wish you could spend your life doing that. You would love to do that. That's what you want to do. You don't have to acclimate your mind to accept the things that you have a passion for. Your passions are based on your gifts. You were given those gifts to match your passions. So it is your job to optimize the gifts that you were born with. You didn't get those gifts just on a whim, just on a humbug. There was no bag of gifts thrown in the air and those just landed on you. You have those gifts for a reason, because they are what you're meant to use on your mission in life. To better your own plight, to positively affect the plight of others, to benefit the world, to benefit yourself, to do your duty on behalf of God who gave you the gifts in the first place. So when you let go and let God, you have to do that. Otherwise, you can't capitalize on opportunities by optimizing the gifts you were born with. You're too concerned about things that your gifts can't affect. You're too concerned about things that don't affect your gifts. You're too concerned about things that you can't do anything about. It's senseless, fruitless to worry about those things. Now, granted, all of us have these things that we stress over. Let's not act like, I'm not saying that, hey, I'm so great, I've never stressed over anything, didn't have anything to do with me. But here's the thing. The reason we stress so incessantly over these things is because deep down inside, we all crave that little feel-good story effect of overcoming obstacles. There is nothing like being successful now and remembering a time when you were almost homeless or even homeless. Remember that time you were living in your car and now you come to this point. Remember that time you didn't know how you were going to eat and now you come to this point. Remember this time when everybody forsook you and you thought even God had forsaken you. But then you come to this point right here, you realize that God was carrying you the whole time. We all have a need to have that feel-good energy in our lives that comes when we overcome obstacles, especially those obstacles that we thought may have been insurmountable in our lives. We all have those obstacles that we think, man, I don't know if I can get past this. Well, of course you can get past it. You have to rely on the goodness of God and the strength that He has given you spiritually. Men who are not in tune with themselves spiritually fall weak in times when they need to be strong. They lose focus in time when they need to be tunnel vision. So, listen, we crave that feel-good energy of overcoming obstacles so much, in fact, that we oftentimes create issues where there are none. You ever met someone who's creating an issue out of something that's not an issue? Those what if people. well, what if this happened, or what if that happens, or or what if I go, what if I make this next move, and then this happens, those woe is me people before the woe even comes. What might happen? What could happen? Well, every time you say something bad can happen, the opposite could happen as well. But we need to feel rescued so much that we focus on issues that we need to be rescued from. Sometimes when men attain a level of success, they oftentimes get worried and concerned that they're becoming complacent. Well, here's the thing. Life is about effort with small doses of complacency mixed in. By complacency, I mean times where you're okay with where you are and you take time to rest. You can't navigate this life nonstop without resting along the way. And I think a lot of times we find ourselves in situations where we're growing and we're going in the direction we want to go, and life is looking good and life is improving and life is progressing. And then we get to a point where we've hit a goal. And then you hit that goal and you're like, man, it seemed like I ain't going as hard as I was. Well, you can't go as hard as you did your whole life. Like, think about that. You're concerned about the fact that you're resting your mind, spirit, and body. That's something you can't control, because here's the thing. I want you to stay awake as long as you can, and track it. And tell me how long it go before your body shut down and you don't even know it's shut down. You sleep and you don't even know it. You wake up and realize that you've been asleep for about 7 hours. There's nothing you can do about needing to rest, needing time to recover, needing time to rejuvenate. When God built the planet, when God built the world, when God created man, when he created all the animals, when he created all of the things, he worked for 6 days and even he had to rest on the 7th. So there's going to come time where you need to rest. You just have to embrace that rest time and understand that it's very necessary for you to navigate this life. It's absolutely necessary. See, here's what we have to understand. Sometimes a little mental and emotional rest and relaxation is all we need to recalibrate our focus to the things that really matter and the things that come next on our life's journey. Your life's journey isn't just this myriad of steps until you die. No, there's levels. Every time you finish a level, you got to take the escalator to the next level. You cannot just go 1, 2, 3, 4. No, the levels are on top of each other. So if you're grinding on level, you're through with it, you got to take some time to either step inside the elevator or take a ride on the escalator and go up. And if you real fly about it like me, you just take a chopper up to the next level. But you got to take time between levels, because when you get from level 1 to level 2, you got to survey level 2 for a minute. You got to make sure you know where you're going with level 2. You got to see the directions of the roads on level 2. You got to understand where the forks in the road are. You got to take a little time to map quest the next level of your life. How do you do that? Pull up the map on the screen, see where you need to go, see the quickest route or the most effective route, or the straightest route. Or if you really want to spend some time on that level and really enjoy it, the most scenic route. But you have to do some map quests on the level that you're on. And many times we just fall to the wayside and we forget about these things. We forget that we have to do this. We forget that we need to do this. We forget that we are supposed to do this. We forget it, man. So the idea that we are our toughest critic is both a gift and a curse. Because when you're stressing about things that you can't affect, it's a part of you being a big critic of yourself. You attach yourself to responsibilities that aren't even your responsibility because you feel like you should be able to do that. You feel like you should be able to handle that. You feel like you should be able to deal with that. You feel like that's your responsibility, especially as a man. You feel like, well, I'm a man, I'm supposed to do that. And even as a woman, well, I'm a woman, I'm supposed to be the mother and the father. No, you can only be the mother. You can only do what you can do. Stop biting off more than you can chew. Stop taking more onto yourself than you can handle. Because here's the thing that I love so much about God. He is not going to put more on you than you can handle. So if you have more on you than you can handle, you put that on yourself. Stop piling more on yourself than you can handle. And then expecting sympathy about it. Sympathy for it. Wondering why God is forsaking you. God did not forsake you, but God ain't no chump either. He ain't gonna let you keep piling stuff on yourself. He give you what you need. If that ain't enough, he's probably offended because you don't think what he gave you is enough, even though he knows for a fact it is. Matter of fact, it's more than enough. It's enough with a little bit left over. just in case you do something dumb. When you are your toughest critic, it keeps you motivated to succeed. It keeps you from falling off. It keeps you from losing focus. It keeps you from going in a direction that's contrary to the direction you need to be going to get to the goal that you're trying to achieve. That's what being your best critic does, being your biggest critic does. It keeps you from being influenced by others who will want you to do something other than what you need to do to be on the path that you're on. It keeps you from settling for less than you know you deserve. It keeps you from putting in less effort than you know you need to put forth. When you're supposed to be giving 110% effort and you're giving 90% effort, then being your biggest critic is what keeps you from giving that flawed effort, that suboptimal effort. But also being your toughest critic can do something terribly damaging to you. It can cause you to refrain from self-adulation, from self-pedestalization. Self-pedestalization is one of the things, one of the keys to being the best version of yourself. One of the primary keys. You could almost be the best version of yourself just with that on its own, to be perfectly honest with you. That's about 70% of the battle of being the best version of yourself. You have to pedestalize yourself, prioritize yourself, but you also always have to show yourself gratitude for being the one who's sticking to what you need to stick to, for being the one that's staying focused on the goals you need to be focused on, for being the one who's keeping your nose to the grindstone, for being your worst critic. But you have to take time to give yourself accolades. I heard Steve Harvey on Cam Newton's podcast, and he said, man, he smokes those expensive cigars not because they taste good. This tobacco, they don't taste good. But he said they represent a sense of accomplishment. They represent getting somewhere. So every time he does a new deal or gets a new gig or some type of new situation, he celebrates with a glass of scotch and a cigar. And it's a small thing to everyone else, but it's a major thing to a man who is continuing to grow and build his brand year after year, decade after decade. Because at some point, you have to reward yourself, or else you become complacent as a guy who is constantly got his nose to the grindstone. You look up and you laid up somewhere sick and you never had an opportunity to reward yourself. And when you laid up in your sick bed, you can't reward yourself at that point. Your brain ain't thinking about rewards. It's thinking about healing. So make sure that you don't get so caught up in the stress of life and so caught up, and make sure you keep your nose to the grindstone and keeping that, keeping that cattle prod to yourself, man, making yourself keep bucking and keep going down, man, plowing through that field, plowing through life, plowing through the grind that it takes to get to where you want to get, that you don't stop and tell yourself, man, you know what? I appreciate you for doing what you're doing, brother. I tell myself that all the time, man. I appreciate myself for doing what I'm doing. I appreciate myself for making the moves, even though people thought they were unorthodox, even though people thought they wasn't going to work, or even though people had nothing but negative things to say about it. I applaud myself and I appreciate myself, and I give myself adulation for forgetting about those things and ignoring those things and doing what I know I needed to do to be where I am. See, here's the thing. God doesn't require much of you. If you take one step, God will take the other 9. Why would he take the other 9? Now, he's not going to take the 9 first and let you take the 1 after he takes the 9. Now, he's not going to do that. You have to show him that you are walking. When you start walking, he'll say, okay, well, he's walking. I got him now. He'll say, okay, well, she's walking. I got her now. Because you got to understand, he knows your heart, knows your mind. When you take that step, he knows that you're walking in that direction. He knows there's never going to be one step. Whenever you take a step toward where you want to go, you never take one step. Because with one step, you're still pretty much in the same place. You're going to at least take enough steps to get halfway to where you're going. But here's the thing. You take one step, you ain't got to go halfway, because he understands that you're ready to go in that direction, and he'll take the other 10 steps for you. Or at least carry you the other 10 steps. I want y'all to think about how wonderful your life is. I want you to think about all the blessings that you have and all of the things that you have to be happy for. all of the things you've accomplished that you have to be proud of. And I want you to remember, you don't have the right to stress yourself out about things you can't control, because you're obviously controlling the things that you can control. Take that energy and focus on something you can control. Because even when you let go and let God, you still have to do your part. And your part is to let God be God and you be you. Y'all comment down below and let me know what you think about this topic. I look forward to hearing what you men and women have to say. Peace.